Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. My name is Mandy Barr, and I have the pleasure of working with Vesta as a concierge specialist. And perhaps I have had the good fortune to also speak with some of you as well, if you've attended events in the past of ours. And this evening we have a very, very special presentation with Robyn Vogel, who joined our organization about 2 months ago, but you have been part of the Vesta family for years. And fun fact, she is also friends with the co-founders. And for those that don't know Robyn, I would just like to share a little bit about her. Robyn is a seasoned love and intimacy coach who brings over 25 years of experience to Vesta, including in trauma-informed psychotherapy. She guides individuals through the healing required to build exceptional relationships. Her flagship program, Heal Your Heart, was created with you in mind. Those who have experienced divorce and are ready to take a deep dive into themselves, heal, and prepare for a new love story. Robyn's unique Come Back to Love approach offers retreats, classes, and workshops that can transform your past experiences of pain and separation into deep love and intimacy. Robyn has been featured in publications such as Boston Globe and Red Book. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Robyn Vogel.
Thank you, Mandy. Oh, thank you, DJ. DJ Aloha. He gave me an applause. Oh, Margaret, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I've been connected with Vesta since its inception. I don't know when that was now, but it was a long time ago. We were doing very different things than we're doing now. And I am happy to be returning to the Vesta family. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm looking around at all of you that have joined. Like I said, we had 95 people register, which is really awesome. Usually about half come live and half listen to the recording. So if you weren't here before we began, I want to invite everybody to have pen and paper or have pen and journal. Thank you for showing me that you do have it. That's awesome. Because there will be definitely invitations to do some self-reflection and to get the most out of this experience. There will be invitations to look inside and learn more about yourself and what's happening, because that is definitely part of the work. So let's begin with a centering. And also, before we do that, I just want to invite everybody who's not on video to have some time with their video on. I don't really care, honestly, if you're walking around. I don't care if your video's on and you're cooking and then coming and sitting down. I don't care if you're in your pajamas. It's really nice to have the connection via the video. So if you can, I welcome you to do that. And thank you again, Mandy. So we're going to be monitoring the chat, and I'm going to actually also be asking you to use the chat, because this class is participatory. And I really like to see comments. In a moment, in a little bit, I'll ask you to post your intentions. And so anyway, it's definitely not time to just sit back and listen to me just talking. This is a class where you are going to be invited to participate. So thank you in advance for that. And thank you, Mandy, for monitoring the chat. All right, so what is this class? This class is called The 3 Major Obstacles to Intimacy. And my work, as you already heard, is all about coming back to love and coming back to your own heart, first and foremost, looking at what the obstacles are to loving yourself, to living with a wide open heart, doing the inner work to connect with yourself, love yourself more deeply, and then bring that out into connection with another, if that is what you choose to do. So that's why we're here today. And I will talk a bit about the Heal Your Heart program, because in this moment, I happen to be preparing to start another cohort of that program, and there's 2 or 3 spaces left. So I will talk about that at some point. Alrighty, so now let's start with the centering. I'll invite you to wherever you are, even if you're moving around, to have a deep breath. Exhale, and gently close your eyes for a moment. Just pause wherever you are, whatever you're doing. It's the end of the day. I know most of you are here. I think most of you are here on the East Coast. So it's the end of your day. And let's take a moment to put it all aside and come to this moment. So deep, deep breath in, allow the belly to expand. Exhale, you might make some sound, maybe do a little movement to shake off the day. I'm sure that some of you have really just finished your workday, just moments before hopping on the call. So what would it take to just shake off whatever energy is left from the day? Yeah, I love that some people are stretching and opening and and just put all that aside. In fact, one of the first questions I have for you, I love questions, you will learn on this call. The first question I have for you is, what is your intention for being here? What brought you here? Those are similar but related questions, I think. Let's start with what brought you here. So just take a moment and listen to the response that comes from inside. And you might write that down. And I would love it if you put it into the chat so I could learn more. I did read all that you wrote in your registration. Some of you wrote some questions, which I hope to get to, and if not, I hope you'll ask. But yeah, let's take a moment and just what brought you here? Let's see some answers in the chat. Oh, here they come. Desire to, couple good. Got desire to feel and learn more about being my authentic self. Yes. Keep finding my blockers to having a great relationship. Awesome. Remove the walls that no longer serve me. Yes. Improvement, change. The thing is, you put yours in and then other people are like, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Me too. Right? Learn more about myself. Yes. More easily, successfully get to intimacy. Yes, yes, yes. Curiosity. Yes, opening my heart. Went through a heartbreaking divorce. Want to heal. Thank you, Elaine. Want to see if I'm missing anything. Yeah. Curiosity to learn more about loving. Thank you, Augustine. Want to see if I'm missing anything. Yeah, great. And now what energy do you want to bring to this class? So that might be something like curiosity or an open mind. What other energies might you want to bring? You might want to bring presence, willingness, beautiful, loneliness. Yeah, when you say loneliness, what that means to me is that you're bringing what's true for you right now. And I'm seeing the other intentions. Thank you. Love. Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Opening my heart, self-improvement, learning to trust myself again, more possibility, love, overcoming fear. Oh my gosh, you guys are so in the right place. Good job. I'm so glad you're here. I'm here because I felt confirmation that this is the next step toward my partner and loving myself. Thank you, Margaret. So beautiful. Overcoming the fear of being betrayed and hurt again. Yep, that's a big topic. And I think you're not the only one, right? Yeah. Letting my guard down, trusting others in what they say and do. Yeah, big topic is trust. And we are going to address that tonight. So I think you are all in the right place. And my plan, my own intention is to address 3 of the most common obstacles to intimacy and love, and then to talk about some steps and some strategies. And yeah, it looks like some people are getting kicked off and coming back, so I'm glad you're monitoring. Thank you. All right, so I want to dive in a little more deeply and invite you to a visualization. The way that I see come back to love is I see it as, and it's a path of life, right? We're walking a path, and on the path, there are some obstacles. And as we come up to the obstacles, we can stop. We can turn around and go back, or we figure out what to do with the obstacles and how to work with them and how to manage them and navigate them, get them out of the way, and keep going. So the whole come back to love has sort of crystallized for me on this path to love, but it's not like we're not loving along the path. It's just we're opening up to more and more as we go. So I want to invite everybody to, again, have a breath and close your eyes, and we'll do a visualization related to this come back to love path. So nice deep breath. Gently close your eyes. Come to stillness. Think about your intention that just came to the forefront for you. Deep, deep breath into your own heart. Again, relax the body. And I want to invite you to consider what your path looks like. Mine is very clearly a wooded path, you know, in nature, but everybody has their own. So the first invitation is for you to visualize your path to love. What does it look like? Just allow your mind to use its imagination, and there's no need to analyze or anything like that. But the important piece and the important question is, where are you on your journey to love? We're going to look at point A and point B. Point A, where are you right now? And just allow yourself to either see that visually or name some things to yourself. And when you're ready, you can also write those things down. Where are you on your path to love right now? Some people shared, like, I just got divorced. It was very painful. I'm just right out of that. Some people here most likely have been divorced for a while, and that's where you are, you know, and you've been dating, and maybe you've had another relationship and that ended, or, you know, right? And some people have been, yeah, out of relationship for many, many years. So there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just a moment to take stock of where you're at, and maybe like what your questions are about where you're at, and maybe your frustrations, and hopefully some curiosities about where you're at. And thank you for those that are sharing in the chat. I really appreciate it. Starting over after a difficult breakup. Feeling shy. Yeah. And now we're going to look at point B. Where are you wanting to go? What are you wanting to create in your life? Where are you heading? What do you see down the path? What can you imagine? When all those obstacles are out of your way, what are you experiencing? How are you being? This is definitely a moment to, once it comes into your awareness, to take out journal, pen, paper, and write down, because you want to have this really clearly acknowledged. And I'm going to go into the chat again. Elaine, thank you for sharing. I didn't share that. I'll share in a moment. Done shadow work and self-love, ready to start again, but not trusting totally. Yeah, ability to evaluate more clearly. Yes, healthy relationship with future me, wanting to create self-love, peace, and ease. Oh, Elaine said my favorite word. Actually, Mandy said my other favorite word. Oh no, did you say allowance? You said close to it. Peace, wisdom, using the pain as guidance. Yes, trying to take one day at a time. Safe, committed relationship with a great understanding partner. Yes. I want to feel confident with no fear of rejection. Yes. One thing I didn't share yet is that I also went through a divorce, and as I don't know, I guess in some parts there was ease, but it was so painful. It's just so painful, I think. And I had two young children at the time. One was 7, one was 2 years old. She doesn't remember us together. She's now 21. I wish that Vesta existed when I was going through the divorce because, oh my gosh, if I had had that kind of support, it would have been a dream for me. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've got some, does anybody want to share their point A and point B that hasn't shared? And I wonder if maybe, I'd love to hear a voice or two in this moment. So I would love to hear even just one voice, somebody who wants to unmute themselves, raise their hand and Mandy will unmute you. I love these in the chat. Is there one voice we could hear? Remember, I'm going to ask several times for voices.
I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Margaret.
Now, what was the question? Oh, what does my what I'm looking to create?
Yeah, what does your point B look like? And you might say your point A.
My point A is I hold curiosity around what it's actually going to look like when I see what I desire, like in everyday life, right? There's so much around doing the work, getting there, taking care of myself, and yada yada yada. So I am curious. I'm like, what are they gonna look like, sound like? What are we gonna be like together? And so what I'm looking to create, I know that it's something where we're in partnership, we meet as equals, we exchange and we share in that relationship, and it's committed. Yeah, so
Nice.
that's what I'm seeing as my 2.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for being the first one and opening up the space for more verbal sharing. Is there anybody else? I'd love to hear one more voice if we can. Can be just like brief. Great, Jerry. If you put your hand up, I think, I mean, if you put your digital hand up, I think that Mandy can, there you go. Yeah.
So what is it? Is it Marguerite? Is
My
what she just said was excellent. Never even thought anything about that, of going that far into the future, still stuck in the past almost. So still thinking about what that was, what that wasn't, the heartbreak, the whatever, how uncompatible we are. I never thought about bringing what that's going to be like and how great that may be next time. So thank you. That was
Awesome.
so easy, but wasn't even thinking about it. So yeah, that was great.
Thank you. And thank you for demonstrating the beauty of sharing in a group.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so we are going to move on to some of the obstacles, some of the major obstacles. The first one is a big one for me. And one of the things I'll say, you heard from Mandy that I am a psychotherapist. I've been an internal family systems psychotherapist for about 20 years now. And after doing a lot of work in the rooms with individuals and couples, and doing some classes on the side at the same time, after a while, I realized that the psychotherapy piece, the emotional piece, is a part of our healing journey, but it's not the whole thing. And I also, I learned this through my own healing, because I teach what I do and practice with myself. On my own healing journey, I did a lot of emotional work after a lot of losses over the years, including divorce being one of them. And it's really, really valuable, but it wasn't everything. And part of the reason why Come Back to Love expanded beyond the emotional is for that reason, because I started to look at limiting beliefs and the mind, and how the mind kind of can control us, and that we actually have to work with the mind separately and differently than we work with our emotions. And so you'll hear some of that as we move into the 3 major obstacles to intimacy. You'll hear a blending of not just the psychological. It's not just about the therapy. And as a psychotherapist, I feel really comfortable saying that, that therapy isn't the end all, I guess, is my point. Okay, so the first obstacle, which does have to do with the emotional, I'm calling trauma bypass. And what this means is that many people, I'm sure including myself, have and do bypass the work, the inner work that needs to happen in order to be in relationship. Now, how do you know that this is happening to you or has happened to you? Some indications are you've experienced a lot of mini relationships or serial relationships, right? Kind of one after the other. They don't really go where you want them to go, so they end. Then you have another that also doesn't really go where you want to go. I think over the years, probably in life, we've all experienced that at one time or another. Another way to tell that there's some trauma bypass happening, not that we're conscious of it, because we're not, it's happening on the subconscious level, is that a pattern keeps repeating itself. So you attract the same patterns over and over again. Like you see themes in the relationship. I was talking to somebody recently on the phone, and she described 3 mini relationships, and they all had this theme of the person not really respecting her, like making choices that benefited them, but that either detracted or had a negative impact on her. And once we talked about it and she laid it out, and I showed her this, thread running through the relationships, it was like, oh, why is that happening? Because there's something inside her that she hasn't addressed yet. And so the pattern keeps showing itself. One of the things and one of the principles around healing is that things present themselves to us over and over again when we're ignoring something that needs healing. So a lot of people will say like, oh, I worked on that already. Why does it keep showing up? Or I don't understand why I keep experiencing, let's say in the case of this person I spoke to the other day, I keep experiencing these disrespectful situations. Like, what am I doing? Well, she didn't say this, but at the end of the conversation, she was asking herself, what am I doing to attract that? Why is it happening? And the reason is because if you just think about it as a bridge, like, well, let's go back to point A and point B. In between point A and point B is this deep inner work that we actually do need to do to get to point B. Like, we need to look inside. We need to do the work of our childhood, of the past. Somebody said, I think, Jerry, I keep looking at the past. That's good also to keep looking at the past, because there probably are things that need healing that are in the past. And when we do the healing work, it allows us actually to have a breakthrough and a transformation and experience something new and different. But if we don't do the inner work, then we keep experiencing the same things over and over again. We keep seeing the same patterns, we keep repeating things, and we're not really making progress. Or you might see yourself, a lot of people will say this to me, like, well, I took like 5 steps forward, but now I'm 3 steps back. You know, it's kind of a, I can't quite get there. So I just want to take a breath into that trauma bypass. Just check in to see how that's landing for you. What do you want to say or acknowledge? I see something coming into the chat, so I'm going to open that. How do you know what it is that you need to work on? Yes, yes, definitely that is the question, Deb. Thank you. We will get to that in a moment, or perhaps later on we will get to that piece, but let's hold that question, because that is obviously the big question. The first is to say, I have something to work on, right? Like, I acknowledge there's something I need to work on, which that in itself can be a big step. Like the person I spoke to on the phone the other day, she wasn't thinking she was going to end the call with, oh, what am I doing to attract these relationships over and over again? That gave her a lot of insight into there is something inside for her to look at that she hasn't looked at yet. And she wasn't sure what yet. Now in the Heal Your Heart program, we do some shamanic journeying, we do IFS work, internal family systems work, and we go and look back at our childhood to see if there's been, you know, we used to, as psychotherapists, say like big trauma, little trauma, and we used to make these distinctions, but we don't anymore. We say like anything that felt, you know, like a loss, like a wound, like painful, like all of those things are traumatic to our bodies and our nervous systems. And all of those things need love and care, compassion, attention, and healing. Doesn't matter if it was big or small. We're not going to judge our wounds, you know, our heartaches and our heartbreaks. They're all important to look at. Elaine says, I guess there are many layers. I keep working on my early childhood trauma, and more seems to reveal itself in relationship, or I pick people that are unhealthy and trigger. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. More layers. You are right. And when we look at the work from different places, there's healing on different levels, I guess. I have more to say about that, but I'm going to pause for a moment. Yeah. So maybe we will do a little exercise, Deb, since you asked that question and I really want to answer it. Yeah. So I'm going to invite everybody to think of, you asked the question, how do we identify? Yeah. How do you know what it is to work on? Actually, can you unmute? Would you mind unmuting? Yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Can you say more? Can you ask the question?
Sure. There's a lot that happens in your past that you don't necessarily know is damaging, right? Because it's how your childhood was or how people are around you. And so how do you know to what level or to which part of it or all of it, I guess, is the thing you should start with or should be the focus of what you're to dwell
Right.
on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah, thank
Does
you.
that answer the
So-
question?
It does, yeah. And if you want to stay unmuted, that's fine because we can do a little back and forth. So the first really helpful piece is to be able to see where you're struggling, like where there's a pattern repeating itself. Is that something that's that you have access to or that you can see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So is it okay to work? It'll be a tiny demo or not.
We lost you.
The
Sorry.
people that can join us, or you don't have to, is my point.
No, you
But-
cut out,
okay.
so I don't know the question.
You, Deb? Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah,
you did.
you're. It was
Well,
a
the question was,
little
do you mind
unstable.
if we do a little piece of work together?
Sure.
Oh. Okay, let's just clear out any tech issues. Okay, so that piece that you just identified for
Mhm.
yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So if you just close your eyes for a moment, you don't have to say what it is, but just know, you know what it is, yeah? Okay, and if you can see a bridge going back to your past from what you've just identified, your earliest memory of the feeling or the situation or, yeah, the feeling.
Helplessness.
Okay, great. And the first time you felt helpless in your life? How far, where does that bridge travel back?
Teenager.
To
Teenager, young, like early teens.
early teens? Okay. Any further back? Feeling helpless?
I don't think so.
Okay. Good. And so do you have any information about your early teens or anything that happened like the moment when you felt helpless or a moment?
Yeah, but I don't want to share it.
Yeah, all good. Yeah. So, okay, you just identified. You just answered your question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. That's one answer to your question. How do I know what it is to work on?
Okay.
So now you have that piece. Yeah. Thank you for being courageous enough to do a demo.
No worries.
Thanks. Okay, so maybe some of you also did that little exercise, or not so little, important and potent exercise. But basically you want to think about what's happening now and where you're stuck and what the feeling is more than the details of a story that happened. Like, I'm going to use the example of the person I was on the phone with again. She had over and over again this experience of being disrespected. So I said to her, okay, let's travel back on the bridge to the past. When was the first time and where were you when you felt this disrespect, this energy of disrespect? And she actually landed back in an incident with one of her parents where she was really disrespected, not treated well. And that gave her the information about where to do some healing work that hasn't been done yet. And how do we know it hasn't been done yet? Because the pattern keeps repeating itself. So the trauma bypass is like not looking at that and just online dating and speed dating and being set up and matchmaking and trying all these different things without doing the inner work. And what was she creating? She was creating one relationship after the next of disrespect. And then what did she start to tell herself? In this case, she's female. She was in heterosexual relationships, so it's with a male. What did she start to tell herself? There are no men out there that are respectful. There are no men out there that will respect me. How I can't possibly meet a man who's going to treat me well. And then she's all wrapped up in these beliefs. And what do we know about our beliefs? Our beliefs create our reality. Difficult pill to swallow. Sad, but true. Make sense? Okay. So we want to look at where we might be doing the trauma bypass. The other piece about trauma bypass is that we're not taught this when we're young. We're taught when we're young, find a partner, fall in love, and you'll feel better. Find a partner, fall in love, and you'll be happy, right? Like if you don't find a partner and fall in love, you're going to be unhappy. If you don't find a partner and fall in love, it means this about you. Something, fill in the blank with something negative. We're not actually taught to go inside, look at what's going on in this internal landscape, do any healing work that our beings require, and then feel better about ourselves, and then choose a partner. So, you know, if there's any part of you like beating yourself up, like, shit, why didn't I, do this? Like, let go of that, because we are not taught this at all. In fact, we're taught the opposite. So yeah. All right. Anybody want to share anything about their experience in this moment? And you don't have to be on video to share. You can raise your digital hand, even if you're not on video. And I'd love to hear your voice. Oh, looks like DJ Aloha is speaking, but do you want to share with us? Or you're just waiting? If you do, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, great.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Damien, by the way.
Thank you.
Sometimes I go by DJ, but wow, yeah. So it's a journey. Like you're very intelligent. Like I'm right here with you. I'm a little educated as well in it, and I'm kind of A/B at the point of I see my patterns, and it's just round and round and round we go, and then hey, I found the secret. Why don't I do the opposite? Why don't I try to find that root for real? Because I've kind of come to it to where what people think of me now, or that kind of view, it doesn't really matter anymore because they're not paying my bills. I'm old already, you know what I mean? I've got probably 15 years before I'm ready to retire. It's things are different, right? And so beliefs are different, right? And it's about I think that change happens when what you're trying to change means more to you than you mean to yourself, right? Like for me, that is what's implemented most of this stuff for me. And and I don't know, I just, it's real. But like when it becomes real and you really realize that you've been doing it backwards. Like I moved out of Port Charlotte 3 years ago ish, and I've had 2 or 3 relationships, but no support circle. How fucked up's that? So then when I'm trying to do things, I'm like, well, if I would have built a foundation and made friends at first, then I would have known if I wanted to date them or not. We could have been good friends or so, but it could have saved a lot of things in it. And but another thing that's become very valuable to me, especially, is that everything to me is a lesson now. It doesn't matter what package it comes in, right? Like, like I've come to the point where I do everything right now as much as I can because again, I'm too old for the drama, right? So whatever lesson I can get out of it, no matter how it's thrown at me, it's I just want to be the best version of me, and which is kind of that leads my feet, that leads my soul. Like I don't even think about it anymore. And the path you call it, whatever, I call it my yellow brick road, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. Just keep it real. So I just want to appreciate it and thank you for this because this literally happened like it was for real yesterday, and I was like, oh fuck, I ain't got no friend. You know what I mean? Let's get on this movement. And then you guys was here. I just want to say thank you guys for sure.
You're welcome, and thank you, Damien. It's great to hear you. It's great to hear you and all your wisdom. Thank
Sure. It was a journey. It still is, for sure.
Yeah. Was and still is, exactly. Thank you. All right, so let's move to the next obstacle, the next major and most common obstacle. And this is one that many of you actually brought up. Mandy, would you mind muting Deanie? Thank you. This is one that some of you brought up here, and also some of you sent some questions about trust. Really, really big topic. And I have to say that many of my clients and workshop participants talk about, how do you trust after what you've been through? And I see people nodding, and yeah, it's a big one. So, and this is one where I'm going to invite you to do some journaling or some writing or whatever. This piece around trust is actually so internal, even though it looks like it's outside of ourselves. So let's just take a moment and I'll ask you a few questions and just my internet connection stays stable. I'll give you a couple of seconds to write down some of the responses to the questions. So the first question is, I don't trust, fill in the blank. And this is one of those, don't think about it too much, just like stream of consciousness, because what comes out right away is what's there. And sometimes with these things, it's like, I trust and I don't trust, You can have the polarity. They both can exist at the same time inside you. The second question is, when fill in the blank happens, I don't trust. When fill in the blank happens, I don't trust. And this is for you. The deeper you go, the more you learn about yourself, the deeper the work that you can do with yourself, the greater impact, the greater the change is possible. And you don't need to share, so this is just for you. When I'm not trusting, I feel fill in the blank. When I'm not trusting, I feel. This is how I know I'm not trusting. Like that might also be like, I behave this way when I'm not trusting. I see myself doing X. I know I'm not trusting. Trust is a huge one. It's a place where people can really get stuck and just tell themselves, that's it, I'm done trusting. And I understand saying that. And I also understand that if you do say that and hold on to that as tightly as you can, you will stay right where you are. Because there's no moving from that place. It's like a cement pole in the ground. So let's see if I want to ask you any more questions about that. Oh yeah, here's a good one. A twist. How has a lack of trust served you? We can call that like the shadow and the golden shadow. Like there's always like the flip side. We often will take on a way of being, because it is actually serving us in a good way until it's not. We have protective parts inside ourselves that protect us, but sometimes they protect us too much and then they don't let us move. Yes, exactly. Sometimes, yes. Damien said safe. Can keep you safe. So I would love to, I'd love to see some in the chat. Say that. Anything that landed for you so far about trust? What are you not trusting? How are you behaving when you're not being trusting? How is it keeping you stuck? And or the question of how is the lack of trust serving you? Putting up walls, yeah. And how does that feel when you put up walls? You can maybe add that. How does that feel? For me, it feels very contracting, not spacious. When I have walls up, I feel disconnected. How does it feel for you? Anger, isolation, yes. When I'm not trusting, I feel shut down, distant, not happy, disconnected, yes. When I don't trust myself, I react out of fear instead of love, absolutely. Which always results in a bad situation. It makes me feel anxious. Yeah, thanks, Yvonne. Off the beam, yeah. Like out of alignment. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, trust is a big one. And one of the things about trust is, well, two things. One, when we say we don't trust because of things that happened in the past, we're saying that the past is going to repeat itself. And that is a misbelief. That is a misbelief that the past will repeat itself. The past, there are things that repeat themselves, as I said in the beginning, when these parts of ourselves need healing. They'll keep showing up, they'll present themselves like, hey, I need some attention. This is something inside you that needs some healing. Can you pay attention to it? That's different. That's different than, the past is going to repeat itself. I'm going to have the same exact experience. My partner's going to cheat on me again. I just know it. We don't want to affirm that to the universe. We don't want to make that true. So that's one thing, that history doesn't, not necessarily going to repeat itself for you. But the other thing about trust that is really, really tricky and can be confrontational is that trust is really an inside job. It's not about what happens outside of ourselves. And that's tricky because trusting is internal. Carol says, I don't trust my ability to have boundaries. That is when to speak up for myself and when to exit stage left. Yeah, yes. That is such a perfect example of what I was just saying, that trust is about trusting yourself. When you trust yourself to handle things, you can put yourself in any situation. Any, because you know that you have the capacity, the strength, the resource, the community. I think Damien just referenced community, foundation, friendship, all of those things that support you in handling whatever it is that you're experiencing in life. It doesn't let me open up to the person, so I give the impression that I can take care of myself alone. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a very common experience. Very independent, right? Yeah. So how do we learn to trust ourselves? That was huge. Thank you, Robyn. Thinking the past will repeat itself. Yeah. You're welcome. What are the things you can bring into your life? This is a question for you. What are the things you can bring into your life that will show you that you can trust yourself? You might have some answers show up. You might not, but worth writing down the question so you can let it kind of percolate and think about it. Being vulnerable. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That's a great response. Yeah. What are the things you can do for yourself, with yourself, that prove to you that you can trust yourself? Meditation, working on quieting the mind to listen. Yes, absolutely. Love yourself. Yes. What's coming to me is a story. I was working with a mentor. It's about 20 years ago. And I experienced a loss at a very early age, like perhaps some of you have also. My mother died when I was 10 years old. And trust is huge. You know, people are going to leave, right? And so I remember I was sitting on a swing and my like mentor, coach person was like pushing me on the swing. I was in my 30s. Sound like I was a child, but I was in my 30s. And I said, I just don't want to lose again. And I was like weeping and weeping. And she said, and she stopped the swing and she said, Robyn, you already went through the worst possible loss. Like, do you trust yourself that you can do it? If you had to, could you do it again? And I was like, oh yeah, yes. Like, I don't want to, but I could because I already did. And in that moment, I realized my capacity to trust myself to go through really hard stuff. But I had been living up until that moment as if I could never possibly do that again, ever. So I was keeping myself walled off, all the things you described, you know. But it was like this moment of eye-opening aha, like, yeah, I can do that. I don't want to, let's be clear, but I could if I needed to. So we've got personal power, prayer, connecting to the higher power, knowing I will be okay. Yes. Exercise, healthful choices, trying new things outside my comfort level. These are all the ways that you're reminding yourself that you can trust yourself. I do trust myself as I've been through a lot and come through strongly, but to be vulnerable and let love in is the challenge. Yes. Yes. And my question for you, Carol, would be, what is that part of you that feels vulnerable and vulnerable to let love in? What does that part need to feel safe? That's the question to ask that part. So those of you writing down, you might write that down. What does this part of me need to feel safe? And then have some kind of either internal dialogue or journaling dialogue to get the answer to that. Be honest and humble to yourself and develop an ability to listen. Yes, thank you, Pradeep. Yes, yes, and yes, great responses. Thank you. And anything that wants to be spoken about this piece before we move to number 3? Okay, great. All righty. Oh yeah. Number 3. Number 3, as thinking about the 3 most common obstacles, I'm sort of chuckling to myself because this was a big one for me, as I just shared with you that I had a very early loss in childhood. But very, very common is this fear of abandonment or fear of rejection. So who can relate to that? Let's either put your hand up or put your digital hand up. Yep, I'm seeing some digital hands. Yeah, lots of hands. Yes. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, that is definitely one of the most common like core wounds that that exist actually. And it's also very like pronounced in our culture, I feel, in Western culture, because we don't grow up in communities here necessarily. So we have like one person and then that person leaves, and then we look for one person and then that person leaves, and we, so it just, this repetition of abandonment is pretty profound and pretty potent. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to jot down also, like, who in your life do you feel abandoned you? And the next question is, how have you abandoned yourself? Because as you already know from being here with me for an hour, I'm very much about, this is an internal job. This is internal work. Similar to the questions around trust, how do you act when it comes to love and intimacy when you're afraid of being abandoned? And is this way of acting in alignment with your true self?
Robyn, can you repeat that last part again, please?
Yes, thank you.
How?
Yeah, I was asking, the first part is, how do you act when it comes to love and intimacy when you're afraid of being abandoned? And is that way of acting in alignment with your true self? And how do people react to you when you're in this fear of abandonment, fear of rejection energy? How do people react to you? That may or may not be obvious, but they are reacting to you. And I bet there's some ways that you can recognize that. And the thing about it is that it's not what you're wanting to create, right? It's not actually what you're wanting. It doesn't take you further down the path. Melissa, yeah. First, we've got Damien who says nope. And then Melissa, wow, I never thought that I'd abandoned myself. Yeah, that's going to take some reflection in the coming weeks, but I can see it now as well. Thank you for sharing both of those pieces. That, yeah, that's a good one to let sit and integrate. Scared, I run, they get upset. Yeah, they get upset, right? Thank you for repeating that. Yes, of course. Yeah. So let's take a pause. I really want to know how all of that is landing, especially this last piece around abandonment, which is big, and it relates to the trust, but it also has its own energy. Who would like to share about just how this is landing, questions that are coming up for you, awarenesses, aha moment, like Melissa just shared? What else is showing up? Clingy and standoffish, clingy or standoffish. Yes, yes, both of those. When you're afraid someone's going to leave, it's like either cling or do the opposite. Elaine, let's go ahead and unmute.
Hi. Well, I guess, a lot of this shows up for me in relationship, even though I'm strong and passionate and all that. It's when the fear of abandonment and fear and rejection come up when I'm in an intimate relationship, I create my own worst nightmare, I guess, without knowing it, is that, of course, I get abandoned or I attract someone who is incredibly unhealthy, and they claim they are, and it's narcissistic, and it's just repeating my mother patterns, even though I keep working on it. And it's my greatest fear of having someone who's either, I have to walk on eggshells with them, or I can't truly be me. And then all those fears come up. So then I step back, and then I don't trust. And then, the walls start to come up, and then and then I get abandoned, and it's so subtle, and it's so deep, and it's not, not something that's in your face, but it's these patterns, I guess, that, like you've been talking about, and your greatest fears come to reality because of these old wounds and these deep things. So
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah, thank you. So let's, if you want to stay unmuted for a moment, let's take that, and you don't have to, up to you, but let's take that, that part that feels abandoned by somebody on the outside and ask that same question. What does that part need from you to not feel abandoned? And this relates to the question earlier about how we abandon ourselves, because we're constantly looking outside, right? That's how we were brought up, which I already shared earlier. So now we know that that doesn't work, that that's bullshit, right?
yeah, and I've been doing that work, really looking in. I know it's an inside job, and like I said, there's so many layers. I thought I had worked through them, but this last one was a doozy, like the biggest owie ever. And I guess I'm on my biggest healing journey ever for a transformation of really getting after it. And Sunshine, and she's like, oh, I could do this work with you, but I can't because you're my sister.
Because you're my sister, right?
But yeah, I guess it's really learning that I am okay, and to trust that I do know, and not have to fear being so unworthy when I am. And it's just really finding, I think, the inside part to feel safe with another is to trust myself more and to feel worthy more. Even though it's, logically I do, but in my heart, or in my heart, I have a part attack sometimes, and it just shows up.
Love that. I have to write that down. A part of
it depends on that, if that 5-year-old is activated, and
yes.
thought I have worked on her and healed her, but when presented with really big triggers in this last relationship with a pseudo psychopath, everything was wonderful until it wasn't. And then I saw where I went and my ugly piece that showed up. So
let's say you saw your triggers, and then that exercise Deb and I did, where the bridge back to where that lands. I would invite you to look at that and see where that lands, because I feel also the energy of what you're sharing is like, yes, there's a major breakthrough waiting to happen.
I wish.
And that's
doing so much work.
So potent. I know. I hear you. Believe me. I've said that so many times.
And I just can't, that inner healer, the inner child, she's a rebel. And I mean, I've done hypnocore therapy, I've done all this stuff to just get in there, and something just really big showed up that needs to be healed again, or more. And it's like, how? So how?
Yeah. Yes, how?
That's the big question. I'm
hold
looking,
that
I'm
question.
asking.
Yep. Yeah, let's hold that question. I'm going to talk about Heal Your Heart a little bit, to talk about the program, but also to address some of that how question, whether it's in a program with me or it's somewhere else in the world. That how question is obviously, what we're looking for here.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's so nice to meet Sunshine's sister.
Yeah, I'm in Durango, Colorado, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Cool. Right. That's where you would be.
Anyway, thanks. Nice to meet you too, Robyn.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here. Yeah. I'm just going to look at the chat. Pradeep's ask the person the main reason they are wanting to abandon you, because your own change to be initiated by you will be accomplished when you understand the reason. Yeah, there's some of that in there too that I will talk about. Okay, just time check. Yep. So I think because you just said how, I want to say a little bit about the Heal Your Heart program, which is basically what I am seeing as my like a legacy program for me, because I've been doing this work for 20 years and it's all kind of come in together in the last 12 months in a very specific way that I feel I've been taking people down this path, this come back to love path, and addressing four major obstacles, or four themes, I'm going to say, of where the obstacles show up. I call them gates, but I don't want to confuse the language. And so the how is addressed in, I think I'm going to answer some of your question as I describe the Heal Your Heart program, which is a 6-month journey where we go in and do the deep inner work, and so that we're not doing the trauma bypass, so that we're addressing issues of trust and how to be and live in the world with a wide open heart, trusting yourself. And so that these parts that might feel really afraid of being abandoned also get tended to and loved and soothed, so that it's not this huge trigger of fear, that it's a softer voice that might be speaking to you that actually offers you discernment, which somebody put in the chat a little while ago, which is an important piece. So the shamanic journeying that we do answers the question of how to find these parts that are hidden in the subconscious, that are still what we say in IFS is like driving the bus of our lives. And they're hidden. They're tucked way underneath. We call them exiled parts. Some people might know the language shadow. They're in shadow. We don't see them they're not very obvious, but the behaviors are obvious. The impact is obvious. And so the shamanic journeying, which is a kind of a combination of internal family systems work, allows you to find those parts that really are ready to do the healing, so that there's a breakthrough and things actually do change in your life. The second piece is addressing, like I said, the mind, because the mind gets stuck in these limiting beliefs. And working on the mind through neuroplasticity tools is actually very different than doing psychotherapy or emotional work. Working on the mind doesn't require us to actually go back and excavate things that are painful and difficult to look at. It's actually a way of literally working with neuropathways that have gotten created. Like I shared about the client who had those, okay, no men will respect me, all the different things that she was telling herself just become these patterns that show up in the brain. And there are very specific tools that work really well to break break the negative thinking, to break the limiting beliefs and create new energy that actually brings a lot of good feelings into the body. That work is, you probably have been listening to people talk about neuroscience, neuroplasticity over the last 5 years anyway, probably longer for some of you, but that's because it works. And for me, it was really the piece that was missing in my own healing journey. And once I discovered it 3-4 years ago, it was like life-changing. These things that were stuck, these places I would go down, these rabbit holes inside myself that not only weren't helping me create what I wanted in my life, but they were also making me feel sick, like tired and depressed and anxious and low energy. And it's just, you probably, notice yourself sometimes telling yourself something and you're like, wait, it's just a habit. Why am I telling myself that? It's not even true. So the neuroplasticity work is so powerful. And then one of the other tools, and somebody asked me, I think privately in the chat, has to do with the soul journey. And the soul journey is also a really big part of the healing, because everybody has different beliefs around this, but we're here. Our journeys are evolving. Our souls are evolving on this journey. And it's really helpful sometimes to look from 30 feet up and look down or over at our life and see, oh, you know, in this life, for me, Robyn, in this life, I am learning about loss. I'm learning about what it means and what it doesn't mean. I'm learning about things I attach to loss that are just not true. When I go up 30 feet, I can see that over time, and I can see the gifts in those challenges. That's really, really important work. And a lot of my work is steeped in Tantra, because I've been studying Tantra also for about 20 years. So it's very, what does that mean? It's embodied. It has to do with meditation. It's a spiritual practice. And it also has to do with like how we feel about our bodies and how we have pleasure. Mandy mentioned the menopause word in the very beginning, and, you know, things change in our bodies, and that is very much loving ourselves and connecting in love with other people. We can't not talk about the body when we're doing this very holistic and deep healing work that I call Heal Your Heart and Come Back to Love. So I have questions that some of you have been asking. And since we have 10 more minutes, I would love to answer any questions. I will also invite you in a follow-up email to schedule a call with me. I would love to touch base with anybody that has any questions, further questions that are, you know, more private, and also anybody that thinks Heal Your Heart might be the next step on your journey. As I mentioned, there are 3 spaces left. It's coming up in a couple weeks, so I'd be happy to hop on a call.
Oh dear, I think that we lost Robyn. But hopefully she will be right back on. It did seem like she had a little bit of a.
I'm back.
Oh, she's back. Wonderful. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to sing, dance, or what. Where are you?
Yeah, like close.
Oh, there you are. Great.
And open up again. Oh, can you see me? So questions is what I was saying. Anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Any coaching that you'd like to receive? A couple people were brave enough, and I have some more energy for that. I don't know what's going on with my internet, but I'm here. Digital hand, regular human body hand, or just unmute, because I can see everybody on my screen. Okay, so if there's no questions in this moment, let's take a moment to write down takeaways. What are you taking with you? What are you taking with you? Hope. You can jot it down on your paper or journal first, and then feel free to put in the chat the start of something, confidence in the process. Thank you, Augustine. Thank you, Carolyn. I can say more about Heal Your Heart in a moment. Yeah. Importance of self-exploration. Yes. The Heal Your Heart program is at over 6 months. We meet on most Tuesdays on Zoom from 12 to 1. And we also have an in-person weekend in October. So it's a bit of a hybrid. And we don't meet every Tuesday at noon. We meet 2 or 3 per month because there's time for integration. I can say more about that. It's my third time running this program. I'm taking deeper trust in myself. Nice. Set better boundaries. Yes, that's huge. What happened in the past doesn't mean it will happen again. Absolutely. It's time to take all the work I've done and trust myself and be vulnerable. Woo! Yes, Yvonne. Not to self-sabotage. Yes. I've really learned to trust the path, even if it's unclear, due to faith in myself and my journey. There's hope to living my best life. Oh my God, yes, yes, and yes. There absolutely is. I have to say, I didn't share all of this. But not only did my mother die, but my father died a couple of years later. And in my early 40s, I had a partner who passed away. And like, I am living my best life. And I feel like if I can live my best life, anybody can live their best life. Like every year gets better and better. I just feel like I know it's entirely possible. I feel and I know it's entirely possible, not only for me, but absolutely for you. Have the ability to forgive yourself. Yeah, there's hope. Yeah. That is the goal. Go forth with the healing I've done so far. Yeah, and keep going with it. I hear you say try again. Yes. Yes, yes. Absolutely. Any other takeaways, any action steps? That's another really great piece to think about at the end of a class like a master class like this. What's something that you might actually do? What action might you take, or do you want to take? Dig in, don't stop. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Be giving. Yeah, always. Ooh. Start the work. I owe it to myself and my children. Yes, Carolyn. Trust more in myself. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you might think about what action would prove that to you. Prove that to your parts inside. We address that a little bit. You're so welcome. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Vesta. I'm so happy to be doing these master classes for Vesta. I'll be doing them a couple times a year, I think. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all of you. I can feel your, I just can feel your hearts and your energy and your connection to this, to yourselves, your commitment to your work, to living your best life, to doing what it takes. I've learned to get scary and hard, but keep on going. Yes. Positive thinking, positive thinking, positive thinking. Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with those of you that are ready to take this even more deeply and actually do the healing work together. And wherever I see you again, I will be very happy. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful evening. Feel free to be in touch anytime. You also can find me on Facebook, send me notes. I'm a relational person. I love to stay in connection.